Hello crafty friends, Amanda here, and today I am doing some cards for my club gals. I sent out components just in neutral colors of these flowers that are on the cards, and also the instructions that I'm going to kind of follow for this workshop that it will make 15 cards. And in the workshop instructions, it says that you need 2 pattern papers that are identical and then 1 coordinating cardstock. I actually thought that I wanted to do 2 non-coordinating pattern papers and then the Melon cardstock. And I'm choosing Melon because that's the color of the flowers that I did for my Makers with Heart video on Sunday. And I have all these flowers left, and I thought, what better way to use them than on a set of cards? I will have these instructions in as a link in the below the video description, excuse me, if you want to find that. And here I'm going to use the Flourish, the Flourishes, and then the Flourish sentiments. Those are both from the core idea book. And also I'm pulling out the March stamp of the month because the whimsical little animals are just, they're cute. They're one of those things that's kind of a warm, fuzzy moment. So there's great sentiments on that, and I'll do that as well. So now I've cut the components. I do end up swapping out that striped paper from the In Full Bloom with a cardstock that has kind of a pattern to it from the Hope and Kindness collection. Just that worked better with these colors that I used. The Scarlet pattern paper here came from Comfort and Joy. So I will encourage you to go into your stash, mix and match, see what you can find, and just make these work for you. Now I swapped these around because the little hedgehog is looking up to the left at the butterfly, and so instead of having him look off the side of the page like the original card orientation does, I kind of swapped that around so he's looking up at the butterfly into the card. And then here I think I chose the Sentiment Thanks Bunches, but this is the stamp of the month. I haven't used it yet, so I just want to remind you to condition your stamps before you use them, either on some typing paper or even some people rub it on their arms. I've done both. It just really depends upon the day. So if you've watched my channel at all, you know that I'm not big into coloring, but I will give you what works for me. So with the lightest shade of the earth brown, I'm just kind of highlighting the face, his belly, and then a few spots on his feet. And I'm going to give that just a little bit of time to dry. So I'm using the dull green and doing different shades of light, medium, and dark on that. I chose the dull red to do the little pansies out of because that was the closest color to the scarlet that I could find in the markers. And then I also have the Melon, it's not Melon, I think it's flesh tone or something, or maybe even an orange for the butterfly and the center of the flowers. And I don't know if you can hear it, but we're getting a thunderstorm here in Florida, and we've actually been dry, so it's kind of nice to have the rain outside my window. So now I'm taking the medium tone and kind of coloring around the stomach and the head, and then I'm going to take the darkest tone of this dull gray, or the earth brown blend, and you can see it's kind of chunky. So to blend in those sections, I'm just going over it, not all of it, but going over some of it with the lightest tone. And as that dries, you can see how the stomach kind of is lighter than the rest of the body. And I felt that I needed to fill in something in the background kind of with clouds. I didn't want to do ink blending since I'd already put the little hedgehog on there and colored him in. So I just took from that Flourishes stamp set some of the whimsical flourishes, and in the Bluebird ink, stamp those in the background. So here I'm just going to attach all of the pieces, and like I said, I rearranged this card to work for my little critter, and you obviously, these are your projects. You can use them and take those pieces and components and put them on there, what works for you and what sentiments you're saying. I did swap out that striped paper, and I'm actually looking forward to pulling some more of the In Bloom paper, and I think I'll cut a whole nother set of these with that so that I'll have on hand to send out to people. It seems like there's a lot of things going on where people need some some encouragement or joy or just happy mail in general. So this leaf is from the layered flowers, and then the Filagree leaf that I use is from a old retired set from Close to My Heart that was all leaves that I absolutely love. Now this paper I did back in January as using up scraps challenge. It was my own challenge, and I had the Rick Wrap ribbon, and I had all of these small pieces, so sure enough, I glued them to a piece of typing paper and made up my own. And I thought originally that the melon color would work really well with the colors in these scrap pieces. And it turns out that it's a little too orangey, where my scrap pieces fall more under the pink tones. So I'm auditioning the different ones with Papaya and Melon cardstock, and I realized that I need something that has more of the white daisy. I also realized that I wanted to see the banners on that green cardstock, and so I needed a smaller flower for that. I encourage you, go look at your sets and see what you have. For me, these cards are probably in the medium category as far as they're not just simple, you know, put on paper, stamp and done. The flowers take some effort, but they're also not over the top in that you have tons of embellishments and tons of techniques, and you're really, you know, spending tons and tons of time with it. For this level, if having all of the flowers already cut, I could probably put together the 15 cards in from start to finish if I had to cut out all of the flowers in 2 hours. I sent you all enough flowers to do 5 of your cards, so 1 from each design, and then you can go back and find your own embellishments as works for you and what sentiments you want to send out. The black leaves with the melon flowers didn't work for me for that particular scrap, so I did go to what's on my desk and I found those sage and gray leaves that I used on that last card. So here I'm just showing you that I'm going to cut a banner end, and then I will go ahead and ink the edges of all of the papers with a little bit of the melon ink and the brush there. I decided to do the sentiment last because I wasn't sure what sentiment I wanted to use, and sometimes when I use a sentiment, if it's real thin, I go a little deeper with my inking, and other times when it fills up the space like this one does, I'll go a little lighter on my edges. One of the other things that I do is that I cut my ribbon end, my banner end on this, and then I trimmed off the other side so that it was the length that I needed it to be, instead of stamping it and not knowing how long I needed things. And there you can see that I did just a light edging of the inking on the edge of that sentiment. I don't show you how I assemble all the cards. They're pretty straightforward. This one I particularly wanted to show because my card base is a little bigger than the pieces. I cut them myself sometimes when I have scraps left over from printing journaling, and this probably is one of those. So I just wanted to trim off or trim it down to the true 5.5 inches wide. So that's what I'm doing here. So there's no white showing through on the front. And I know I used to cut them with them folded, but I don't know why I didn't just open up my card and cut them like I just did with them opened up. But for me, that just made a big difference. And the other thing that I like to do when I'm doing this kind of assembly line style making of cards is that I'll put glue on all of my components first and then put them down. Now I lost the recording for this card. I apologize. This is card number 4. And what I did is, after I stamped the little hedgehog with the daisy, I trimmed it down just to fit into that section, but the mat that went behind that sentiment square was longer, so I ripped the top of it, folded it over, so you have kind of a ripped folded edge at the top of it, which is hard to see on the video, but it's there. And I will have pictures of that in the Crafting with Amanda VIP Facebook group. So if you're not a member of that already, there's a link below in the description under the video, and you can just say that you saw this on YouTube and come into that group. I will also have the directions for this card pattern that makes these 15 cards in that group as well. But I will have, so you don't have to join the group to get that pattern, I will put it out so that you can just click on a link and get it that way as well. So just all the options to find these supplies that you need to do these cards if you want. And I did choose sentiments from both the Flourish sentiments and from the stamp of the month. So I know most of the gals that receive these kits have lots of stamps of the month because you are taking advantage of those free stamps with your VIP membership. So thank you for that. And then even if you're not a VIP at this time, but you've been with me for a while, I know that you have stamps that you've collected over the years. Now I wanted to just add a little texture to this one, so I went ahead and grabbed my embossing folder, the Quatrefoil folder, long retired from close to my heart, and I didn't bend the leaves here prior to pulling them out for you. So again, I'm just adding the glue on everything. I bent them so that they would have some more realistic feel to them. And I had bent the leaves on all the other flowers, but it really was just this one, of course, that I picked that I hadn't done. So I just bent those up real quick again to give it a little more interest. And the one thing I like is Close to My Heart cardstock isn't so heavy that you can't bend it easily, but it's heavy enough that it holds its shape even through the mail. So this is cards 4 and 5. You can see the thin cuts there. All the links will be below in the video description. Here's how you can connect with me to see some of those graphics up closer. And if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. That really does help me out. Here's another video you may be interested in, and I hope you have a blessed day. Bye-bye.